back to my channel. This week I'm bringing you another Cook with G. But before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up so that way we can keep on growing. Now, this week we are cooking from the Veggie Chinese Takeaway Cookbook, written by Kwoklyn Wan. And the recipe that I picked is rice porridge congee. Now I picked this because I've seen a lot of people making congee online and I was pretty curious about it. But as I was reading the cookbook, Kwoklyn started talking about how this was a recipe that he remembered having when he was growing up. And I think that it's important to learn how to make recipes from someone who might have an experience or a memory associated with it. So if you don't know anything about congee, Kwoklyn also puts a little excerpt in here explaining it. So he says that congee is a very traditional Chinese dish and it dates back thousands of years. In ancient times, people named congee chan, the watery one, and the Chinese often eat congee for breakfast. So I will also put some resources down below if you're curious to learn more about congee, but let's cook. Okay, what do you need to make congee? So you need 1 cup of rice, a small piece of ginger, then I have 2 giant things of vegetable stock. You do need a lot of liquid because as you saw in the kind of description of congee, it is a little bit more of a watery type of porridge. This isn't even enough liquid. I'm gonna supplement with some water because you can't just use water in place if you want to. And then the last mandatory ingredient is dried mushrooms. So I went to my local Asian grocery store to find these. They do have them at regular grocery stores sometimes, but they're more of a specialty item, at least at the grocery stores that I've been to. So you might want to check some of your other grocery stores around if you're looking to get these. I'll also link anywhere online that maybe you could buy them down below in case you don't have access to this ingredient near you. I'm just gonna open the packet of mushrooms. These are also dried shiitake mushrooms. They had like a random medley of them, but I like shiitake. There's your dried mushroom. So I'm just gonna put them into a colander. I finished rinsing them underwater. Now, add them to a pot of boiling water. These are going to boil for 15 minutes. And in the meantime, we can prepare the rest of our ingredients. Okay, we're going to peel and slice our ginger while our mushrooms are boiling. So if you've never done that before, it's actually pretty easy. You just need a spoon and your ginger. And you can just take the spoon and kind of just brush it against the skin and it starts to come off. It can be a little finicky because it's not a solid object, it's rounded. But once you got enough that you need, you can just go ahead and slice it. Okay, so I got enough peeled that I think I can use. And then I'm just gonna cut some slices. And now we can move on to rinsing our rice. Now, if you don't rinse your rice, it is a crucial step in making rice just kind of in general, not just congee, because rice has a lot of starch on it. So when you rinse it, you're actually rinsing away a lot of that starch. And the rule of thumb is that you want to rinse it until the water runs clear. So if you're someone who thinks that they can't make rice, but you've never tried rinsing it before, try that and then get back to me. Okay, let's add our rice into our pot. We are also going to add in our ginger, and the total liquid we're going to use is 14 cups. So we're gonna add all of our vegetable broth plus 2 cups of water because that's how much I still will need. 1 more cup, 2 more cups. Okay, so now we're going to turn the heat up to boiling. So we're gonna just let this cook away. Okay, so we have our mushrooms. They have boiled for 15 minutes, and I am actually going to move them onto my cutting board because we're going to slice them. Now, he says in the recipe that we don't need to add them when the rice initially starts cooking, but once it comes up to a boil, we can toss them in. So we have some time to get to chopping. Oh. These are a little hot. So I know that this is a breakfast dish, but I am going to be having it for dinner tonight in case you happen to notice the sun starting to set around me. But that being said, I am probably going to have it for breakfast again tomorrow. So I am definitely a fan of savory breakfast. I do feel like sweet breakfasts are not my usual go-to. So I think that that might have been one of my draws towards this dish, because I felt like I would love a new recipe that I can also like meal prep, but that is savory for the morning. Okay, I just finished chopping all of my mushrooms and I was, admiring the recipe and the beautiful photography in front of me when I realized that it says 6 dried mushrooms. Now, I don't know if all mushrooms are the same sizes, so I'm just gonna use about half of the pile that I chopped. That might be a little bit more, maybe I'll kind of eyeball it, but if anyone wants some cooked dried mushrooms, I have plenty. But don't worry, they're not gonna go to waste. I'm just gonna try and make the recipe a little bit more accurate instead of putting twice the amount of mushrooms that it calls for. Okay, now we're going to add half of the mushrooms because I made too many. And this is actually going to cook for an hour and a half. Okay, so we're going to prepare a few toppings. He has some suggestions on the side of what you could add, and the one that I have picked for us to make today is some crispy fried tofu. So I have a block of firm tofu here, and I am just going to open up this block and drain it. I have followed another recipe in his cookbook before, actually on this channel, for salt and pepper tofu. And in that recipe, he just shallow fries the tofu on each side for a few minutes in like a small amount of oil. So I'm just gonna follow that because that seems, doesn't really give you much instruction, other crispy fried tofu pieces to go on top. I think you could probably buy fried tofu at the Asian grocery store, or maybe even some regular grocery stores, if you are looking to kind of skip the hassle of making it yourself. But if you're interested, I'm gonna walk you through it. So technically, pressing your tofu is optional. It'll still work if you don't press it, but I'm sure there are people out there who will say you have to press your tofu. I like to do it. I'm just using a kitchen towel here. I think it's valuable when you're making it kind of crispy because it'll get out some of that extra liquid. Otherwise, it'll just get released in the pan and it might take longer or absorb more of the oil versus like actually crisping it up. And that's another thing that it does. It does help with catching flavor. I know we're not putting it technically in a sauce, but hopefully when you put it on top and then you kind of mix it in, it'll still absorb some of the flavor that the congee has. Now, some people might say you need to press it for like 20 minutes, an hour, or whatever, with a bunch of books stacked on top. That was long enough for me. It's really honestly personal preference unless your recipe says otherwise. So now I'm just gonna cut mine into cubes. If you have never had tofu before, I highly recommend trying to try it at a restaurant or have someone prepare it for you. I think it can be a little intimidating to make yourself just because it really doesn't have much of a taste. It is, as a lot of people say, like a sponge, so whatever you put on it, it's going to taste like, or the flavors around it. But I personally enjoy the texture and kind of how versatile it is. But if you are looking for a different maybe protein option, he doesn't give any other general protein options. This is a vegetarian recipe, and it's actually the whole cookbook is vegetarian. Actually, most of the cookbook is probably vegan. I don't remember there being that much dairy in it in general. So I think that if you wanted to have another protein option, an egg is probably a good topping, but that's just my preference. I think that you should definitely look up other congee recipes and see. I'm sure that actually I think I've seen some topped with other meats or things like that, that if you wanted to have something that's much more traditional. But I definitely recommend trying tofu if you are not currently a tofu person. I'm gonna use avocado oil, but you can use any neutral cooking oil that you want. I'm just going to heat a good amount of the oil in the bottom. Okay, so we're just gonna put our tofu in. Ooh. So you just want to fry up the rest of your tofu, and then once you get them to the color that you like, I just like to place mine on a paper towel to absorb any extra oil. And then after everything is all fried up to how you like it, your congee should be looking nice and creamy and perfect, and it's time to plate that up. So I'm just moving mine to a bowl, and then we're gonna add all of our toppings. So we've got our fried tofu pieces. Just put a few of those sprinkled on top. We have some crushed peanuts and then some sesame seeds. Feel free to toast these if you like.
and then also some green onions and some soy sauce. So I just drizzled that on top, and then boom, it's time to enjoy.
All right, it is finished. So you can see that I also added some sesame seeds, peanuts, scallions, and then soy sauce along with the tofu because that is what the recipe said. They also had the option of adding fried shallots, but I felt like I just wanted the tofu today. Maybe next time I'll also fry some shallots. So let's give it a taste. This is delicious. I don't know what I expected, but I just didn't expect this. Like, I expected to like it, but there aren't that many ingredients in it, and it's really savory. I don't know what the mushrooms do in this, but they really give you that umami flavor, and I am so excited to eat more. I want to try a little with some tofu and a mushroom. So good. This tastes incredible. And if you don't make this recipe, you should definitely try making a different congee recipe because this I think might be in my new rotation for recipes, just like meal prep, general things if I'm craving, because this is delicious. I'm sure that there are non-vegetarian versions of congee out there. I'm sure you could use like other broths or whatnot, since this was a vegetarian specific recipe. However, he did also say to use water, so maybe it's more common to use water and not broth, but I definitely liked the addition of the vegetable broth. I did add like a little bit of water, but I still feel like the vegetable broth flavor really added a lot to the dish. And I think I learned something new from my bowl today. So if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up so that way we can keep on growing. And I will be sure to catch you next time. Bye!